Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back. Today's Daf is Kesubos Ayin Zayin. We begin at the Mishnah, which is 3 lines from the top of the Amud. Until now we discussed a woman by which we found some blemishes upon marriage. Now we're going to discuss a man, a husband, who has developed physical imperfections. What would be the halach in that case? Says the Mishnah, Ha'ish shenol de boy mumen. If a man develops some type of mumen, some type of blemishes, ein koifin oisei lihoitzi, we don't force him to separate. Apparently, a man is more particular about these things than a woman. Amar Rabban Shimon Gamliel. Well, it all depends if it's minor or major. When do we say that he can stay on married? When there are relatively minor blemishes, so she has the ability to overlook, we don't force him to separate. But if there are severe deficiencies, in that case, even if they were found by the husband, we force him to divorce. Now the Mishnah began with the words Ha'ish shenol de boy mumen, an ish who developed some mumen. Rabbi Yehuda Tani Noldu. In fact, Rabbi Yehuda had that nusach of the Mishnah, that text, Noldu, that these things developed later on after marriage. So in that case, we say, well, even though it happened later on, she has to overlook, and we don't force him to divorce. However, Chia bar Rav Tani, Chia bar Rav had a different version of the Mishnah. Tani hayu, an ish that had mumen upon marriage. So despite the fact that she's now faced with a person with mumen, we don't force him to divorce. Now, manda omar nodu. If you have the girsa of noildu, so even though it came later, it came as a surprise to her, we don't force separation. Certainly, when this was there before, and it was a pre-existing condition, pre-marriage condition, of course. The kasavar v'kiva, because in that case she accepted it. She went into the marriage with full awareness, full knowledge that this is the case. So you can't force him to divorce. But manda amar hayu. If you learn hayu, that these things were things that predated the marriage, so perhaps only in that case you cannot force him to divorce. Aval no deloy, but if it's something which happened later after marriage, in that case perhaps you can force him to divorce. It's not something that she accepted, that she was willing to live with. So 2 approaches to the Mishnah. Is it in all cases that we don't force him to divorce, whether it was a pre-existing condition or something which developed later, or only something which was a pre-existing condition, but something which came about later? You can't force her to stay on with him. Tanan, let's take a look at the second part of the Mishnah. This was the Tanakama. We are not koy for him lahoitzi. But we have the other shita. Amar Rabban Shimon Gamliel. When is this so? When don't we force him to divorce? When they are relatively minor blemishes. But if they're more serious mumen, we force him to divorce. Let's analyze this statement in light of our previous discussion. This works very well if the mumen under discussion in the Mishnah occurred later on. Tanakama says, even so, you can't force him to divorce. That's Tanakama. Rabban Shimon Gamliel disagrees. He says, well, it depends how serious. Hainu deshani ben gdolim l'ktanim. I understand what the difference would be between major and minor deficiencies because it happened later. It developed later on, post-marriage. If it's something that you can overlook, fine. But if it's something gadol, something severe and serious, then you can't force it to overlook. You have to force him to divorce. But according to the other approach that we're speaking about women that were there from the get-go, from before the marriage. Tanakama says, leave it alone. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel comes and disagrees. He says, well, if it's something major, you can't just ignore it. Well, I don't understand this. If these things were there beforehand, Malik Dailim, Malik Tana, what difference does it make? If they are heavy women, lighter women. The fact is, she knew about it. And she approached the marriage with full knowledge, full awareness of this phenomenon. She knew about it, she accepted it. So what difference would it make? Whether it's Gadol or Katan, answers the Gemara, yes, there's a difference. Sometimes a person's mindset can change. He comes to the realization that, look, I cannot tolerate it anymore. Because she's thinking, she thought she can tolerate it. But now she says she can't bear it. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon says, if there are women gedolim, we cannot hold it against her. Now we speak about minor women, major women. How do we define these things? Give me an example of women gedolim. Pirish Rabban Shimon Gamliel. Kigoy nismis einoi. He was blinded. Nikta yadai. Missing his hand. V'nishbar ragloi, his foot. Stop functioning. Itmar Rab Abba Bar Yaakov Omar Rabbi Yochanan. How do we paskin la halacha lamaisa? Halacha ki Rabban Shimon Gamliel. If it's women gedolim, divorce. Rava Amar Rav Nachman, halacha gediv chacham, we follow Tanakama, don't divorce in either case. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, in this Mishnah, we follow Rabban Shimon Gamliel's sheet. Asks the Gemara, why did Rabbi Yehuda have to specifically tell us that in this case we follow Rabban Shimon Gamliel? We know that according to Rabbi Yehuda, we always accept Rabban Shimon's view. So why would he need to single out this Mishnah? It's already included in that general formula. Umi Amar Rabbi Yechon Hachiz. That's so that Rabbi Yechon had to state his support for Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's shita in this case. Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yechon B'chol Makim Sheshona Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel b'Mishnah Seinu. Whenever we find Rabbi Shimon's name mentioned in the Mishnah, halacha k'maisa, we always accept his shita, except for three exceptions. Chutz mi arev, that's one halacha, but sidon, v'rayach roina, except for those three cases. Otherwise, we always accept his view. So why would this Amoira quote Rabbi Yochanan as having ruled like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel in our case? The answer is Amoirayin. We have two versions, two Amoirayim, v'alibad Rabbi Yochanan, two versions as to what Rabbi Yochanan really held. According to one version, Rabbi Yochanan always accepts Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion except for those three exceptions. According to the other view, no, there is no such formula, and therefore he saw a need to actually conclude that in this case we accept Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion. Continues the Mishnah. In the following cases, we actually force him to divorce. In contrast to the previous Mishnah, where according to Chachamim, we don't force a divorce. In the following cases, we do. Because these are real severe conditions which make life with him unbearable. Mukeshchen, he's suffering some sort of skin condition. Uba polifos, which the Gemara will discuss. V'amakametz, which the Gemara will discuss. V'amatzaref nechoshes, which the Gemara will discuss. V'habursi, a tanner, due to the unpleasant odor that exudes from his body. In all these cases, we force him to divorce. Whether they were involved in this profession or experienced this illness prior to marriage, or whether it happened later after marriage. In all these cases, Amar Rabbi Meir explains, here comes a greater chiddush, even though he actually conditioned this with her in advance. You should know I'm becoming a tanner. Now she can complain and say, look, that's not what I expected. I thought I can live with it. Now I see I can't live with it. Let me go. That's your Meir Shita. No. When do we force divorce? When there was no discussion in advance. But if it was discussed pre-marriage, then she can't turn around and walk away. Except for one example. chutz b'mukashchin, a fellow who's suffering this condition of mukashchin, v'pnei shema maktoi. In this case, even though he articulated it in advance, doesn't matter, because being with his wife physically harms him, exasperates his condition, and therefore we force a divorce. Masa b'tzidain, there was actually a story in the town of Tzidain, b'bursi echad, there was a fellow, a tanner. Shemeis, he passed away without children. V'hoyeloi ach bursi, and he had a brother, Shimon. It ran in the family. They were also a tanner. And he was the potential Yavam to do Yibum on this Isha. And she was unwilling to go with him. Amr Chachamim. The Chachamim told us a Chiddush. He should tell me, she can get up and say, Lo chicha, hayisi yichayli l'kavel. When married with your brother Reuben, I was fine with his condition. Ava mekalkeles es ashur. I could tolerate his odor. It was okay. I can live with it. But you, I have no interest in being with you. I can't live with your situation. But you, as a tanner, that's overbearing for me. I can't handle that. And we accept that argument. So we had several conditions discussed in the Mishnah. Mukashchin, which we just explained. Bal palifois, mekamitz, mitzarav nechoshes, v'aburs. The Gemara will explain them one by one. My Baal Palifois, what is this fellow? There's an unpleasant odor coming forth from his nose. Masnisa Tana, in the Brisa we learned, coming from his mouth. Ravasi Masni Ifcha. According to Ravasi, the names have to be changed. It's Shmuel, who related it to the mouth, and the Brisa to the nose. He applied a simon in order to remember who said what. Shmuel, the Amira Shmuel, loy posik pume. His mouth wouldn't stop discussing mikulim pirkin le'alochas in our whole parak. Because you take a look at the Mishnahs, almost on every Mishnah we have Shmuel adding something to the Mishnah. So it's a good way to remember that Shmuel in this parak is related to something oral, something to do with the mouth. Palifois is re'ach hapeh. V'makamitz, what is that? My makamitz. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Zaba kabitz. This fellow manually collects tsoyas klov in the waste of dogs. Rashi says used for laundering. So because he's manually collecting these things, he absorbs the unpleasant odor which she has a hard time living with. So makamitz is a collector of dog waste. Meisvei, here comes a kash. Makamitz is a bursi. Makamitz isn't the other fellow, it's a bursi, a tanner. Asks the Gemara, well then you have another kasha. If Mekamitz is a tanner, according to you, Tikshalach Masnissen, you will have another kasha on the Mishnah. Mishnah says Hamakamitz, which according to you means a tanner. But a tanner is mentioned down the line. Bursi. Bursi is a tanner. You're mentioning Bursi twice? Answer, the Mishnah can be answered very simply. Depends if he's a commercial bursi or a private bursi. Two different levels of involvement, two different levels of odor, body odor. Kan bursi gadol, if he's a commercial bursi, that's one guy. Kan bursi katan, whereas the word makamitz perhaps refers to a small-time bursi. Elul Rabbi Yehuda, but according to Rabbi Yehuda, that makamitz is unrelated to bursi. He says it has to do with the mekamitz tsoyas klovim. Then we have a kasha from the Brisa which tells you that makamitz is bursi. You're right. Tanoi, it's actually machlekes Tanoim. What exactly makamitz is? The sanya makamitz is a bursi, a tanner. Ish oimrim makamitz tsoyas klovim, like Rabbi Yehuda explained. Then we have a matzaref nechoshes v'abursi. My matzaref nechoshes, what is this fellow involved with? Rav Ashi Amar chashli dudi. He's involved in coppersmithing, flattening out copper plates, which they use to build pots. So do the other pots. Rabba Bar Chana Amar is a machatech nechoshes miikar. This fellow is a copper miner. He digs out the copper from its source. And all these fellows carry around this unpleasant odor, which makes it difficult to live with. Tanya Kavase de Rabba Bar Chana have a riot to this shit. Ezo mitzaref. What exactly is a mitzaref? It's a machatech nechoshes miikar, a copper miner. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rav. Ha'omer einizon ve'eini mefarnes. We know that a husband is fully obligated, whether Menat Torah, according to some Shittas Midrabanan, he's obligated to provide for his wife's needs. Food, other provisions. He says, look, this is not my job. I'm uninterested in providing for her. Yoitzi v'tein Kesuba. Unless she's okay with it. Perhaps she brings in some income and she's fine with it. Maybe he's learning Torah. But if it's not done by mutual consent, he's skirting his obligations. Yoitzi v'tein Kesuba. He divorces and pays a Kesuba. Azar Belezer, so Belezer went along. Amar l'shmata kamei de Shmuel. He presented this halacha brav to Shmuel. Amar Shmuel was unhappy. Aksur sa'ari le'elazar. Take barley and feed it to Elazar. This is not the correct approach. Force him to divorce? What have you accomplished? Reconcile the situation within. Before you force him to divorce, because he refuses to support his wife, yikfu lazun. Force him to feed and get it back on track. So what did Rav hold? That's not going to be a solution. For Rav, a person is unwilling to live with a snake in one basket, unless he might get bit by the snake. So this fellow is playing hardball with his wife. He's not interested in supporting. Say goodbye. Ki salag Rabbi Zera. When Rabbi Zera went up to Eretz Yisrael, as we know, he moved to Eretz Yisrael. Ashrichel Rabbi Yamin ben Yefes. So he finds Rabbi Yamin bar Yefes, the Yosef, is sitting with Amar and saying over the halacha. V'kamal mishmei de Rabbi Yochanan. Which halacha was he quoting Rabbi Yochanan? The halacha that we just mentioned. Eini zon. A fellow is not supporting his wife. Divorce. Amar Leis Rabbi Zera said, I know this halacha. It created a ruckus back in Bavel. On this very halacha, which was expressed by Elazar, Aksua Sa'aran le'Elazar b'Bavel. In Bavel, back home, they fed Elazar barley because of this halacha. Amar v'damar Rav, Asi, ein ma'asin el l'psulis. Only time we force a person to divorce is if he's married to an Isha who's not really a proper match. He's an Almana, l'Kohen Gadol, etc. Ki amrita kamei de Shmuel. So Rabbi Yehuda says, look, when I passed this halacha onto Shmuel, Amar, he said, no. Let me explain this to you. Actually, he was just supporting, he was just explaining the halacha. Amar, I'll give you an example of what psules means. Kigoyin almana, who's married l'kohen gadol, or v'grusha v'chalutza, married l'kohen hedid, mamzeres and asina, married to Yisrael, mas Yisrael and asna mamzer. These are all psulim and yisurim and atira. So we force their separation. Aval nasa isha. What about the following case? He's married to a woman. V'isha is ima as her shanim. They were living for 10 years, married for 10 years. V'lo yolda, and she hadn't yet given birth. And we know that 10 years is the maximum. We discussed this back in Yivamis. So despite the fact that he's really meant to go and try his mazel elsewhere, but we don't force their separation. Ein koifen oise, we don't force them to separate. That is Shmuel's opinion. Right? Ravasi's quoting of Shmuel, that when it comes to Peru Revu, we don't force them to separate. His version of Shmuel was differently. Even in this case where there's no children after 10 years, we also apply the idea of kaifin, we force them to separate. So we had version number 1 of Shmuel. Separation is only mandated when there are psules. But when it's a question of pru revu, we don't separate. According to version number 2, even in that case, we force separation. And Rashi points out that Menat Torah, he doesn't really have to divorce his wife. He can just marry another wife. But with the Rabbanon, we force them to separate because if we allow them to stay together, he'll never go pursue his mazel elsewhere. He's not going to marry somebody else. So with the Rabbanon, we force their separation. That's Shmuel's opinion in the second version. Tanan. Here comes a kasha from our Mishnah. In the following situations, we force separation. Etc. What happened to all these cases that we just mentioned? Okay, now Bishleim Rav Asi, according to Rav Asi's version of Shmuel, that we only force separation when they are asr minat Torah, but not when it's just pru revu, where it's just a chiv midrabanan to separate, as we explained. So I can very well understand why our Mishnah failed to mention these cases, because the Rabbanon Ketani, the Mishnah only mentioned instances where the Rabbanon require separation. A mukashchin, ba'polifos, the Raisa like Tani. The Mishnah is not going into obvious cases which are chiyuvim and atera to separate. We're not discussing those cases now. The Raisa like Tani. So we fully understand why the Mishnah omitted almana l'kayin gadol, etc. We're discussing the Rabbanans. Elo l'rav tachlifa barabim, according to the other version of Shmuel. Listening, nasa isha v'sha ima eser shanim v'lo yolda kaifin aisi. We force them to separate if they're married 10 years without kids. That is also the Rabbanan example of separation. Why was that omitted from our Mishnah? Amar Rav Nachman lekasha. True, we force them to separate, but we do it a bit differently, more gently than in our Mishnah. Haba mili. When it comes to Peru Revu, we cajole them. We convince them. Look, you should look elsewhere. Haba shaiti, but in our Mishnah, by the mukashchin, etc., we strap him, we force him, we whip him to divorce. So it's a whole different type of procedure. And therefore the Mishnah does not mention the case of Puravu. Maskal Rabbi Abba. You're going to try to convince a person to divorce, but Dvarim Loi Yivasar Avid. An Avid doesn't get back on track with just words. You have to be more forceful than just words. So if you're trying to get your way and have this fellow divorce his wife, words are not going to help. Elamar Abba Hava b'shaiti. True. Whether the cases in our Mishnah or the cases of the Pru Revu, of course, we force them by all means. But there's still a difference between our Mishnah and this case. Hasam, in our Mishnah, Ki Amra Havina Bade. Let's say the Isha says, I'm okay with him. Shafkinala. We let her stay with him. It's up to her. We only force him when she wants out. But otherwise, she can stay married. As opposed to Hach, in the case where a fellow is married 10 years, even if she's fully accepting of that situation. We don't allow her to stay with him. So it's a whole different story, a whole different halacha. It doesn't belong in our Mishnah. Asks the Gemara, really? In all the cases of our Mishnah, she can choose to stay on? Very mukashchin, a fellow that's suffering that severe skin condition. There's no choice in the matter there. They have to divorce. The avagav, the amr havina, but even if she says, I'm staying on with him, we don't allow her to stay with him. The Snan, the Mishnah says, chutz mukashchin, a mukashchin who's engaged with his wife physically, it harms him. So in that case, she doesn't have a choice in the matter. Uktani. And still the Mishnah mentioned it. So then why did the Mishnah mention the case of Piru Uravu as well, where it's not up to her? Answers the Gemara, there's still a difference between the two cases. Hasam and our Mishnah, Ki Amra Dayarna Bahadei Besahati. After all, the whole concern is that he might interact with her physically. Right? Which makes his condition deteriorate. But if she says, Dayarna Bahadei Besahati, I'll live with him under watch of Adam, who will ensure that we keep separate. Shavkinala, we allow her to stay with him as long as she doesn't, engage with him physically. Hacha. But in our case of Peru Revu, there's no choice in the matter. Avagav de Amra, Dayarna Bade Besad, even if she'll say, we'll live with him under watch, under surveillance. Loish Kafkinala, we don't allow her because we want to encourage him to marry somebody else, to have kids. Tanya, we learned in the Bryce. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Sachli Zaken Echad Ma'anshi Yerushalayim. I once met an older fellow from Yerushalayim who told me the following: Esrim va'arba mukei shechinhen. The mukei shechin condition encompasses 24 different varieties. The kulon amru chachamim tashmish kashalhen. All these different variations of mukei shechin may not engage with their wives. It hurts them. It exacerbates their condition. Ubali rasan kasha mikulan. Amongst the mukashchin, the worst, the most severe one, are the fellows called Baalei Ra'asan. Rashi says, Baalei Ra'asan, Sheretz Yeshle B'moichei. There's some sort of little creature roaming his brain. And that creates this condition. How does this condition come about? What caused it? The Sanya. As we learned in the price. Heikes dam v'shimesh. A person's engaged with his wife after bloodletting. Havin loy bonim v'sikin. Any child born from that interaction are v'sikin are weak, physically weak. Hikizu shnei meshimshu. If they both did hakazas adam, engage with each other. Havin loy bonim bali rasan. A child born from that engagement experiences this severe mukashchin condition, what we call bali rasan. Amar papa loy amaran. This is only concern loy tam midi. If nothing was eaten in between the hakazas adam and the tashmish. Aval ta midi, if there was something eaten in between, less lamad, there's no concern. My simone, how do we tell? What are the telling signs of the fellow who has the ra'as son? Dalfan eine, his eyes are tearing. V'daivi nechiri, his nose is running. V'aisile riru mipume, there's liquid running from his mouth. V'ramu didvi are flies. V'ramu didvi elvaid are flies roaming, circling around him. Maya susei. What's this fellow's remedy? Right? To see this fellow with the flies over him. What exactly do we do for him? Abaye, this is the recipe. This is the potion. Pila, Rashi says, Esav Shakaran Pulyan, some sort of grass. Next is Veludna. Rashi says, Alaishtina, some sort of other plant. Girda da Goiza. Those are the nut shells. Perhaps walnut shells. The Girda the ash kifa, what you scrape off the hide when you process it. V'kalil malka, Rashi says, called chavatzeles, some sort of other plant or vegetable. Umatchila de dikla sumka. You take the skins of the dates, which are still unripe. V'shalaklu badadali. You take all these ingredients, cook them together. Uma'ayel leila besa de shisha. You take them into a windproof room with marble walls. If you can't find a marble room, you take him into a room which has very thick, reinforced walls, which is fully insulated and quarantined. The Shev Libni Varicha, whose walls have consist of 7 bricks, full bricks. Varicha is a half a brick. So each brick is 3 tefachim. Aricha is 1.5 tefachim, so 7 times 3 is 21, plus 1.5, 22.5 tefach thick walls. No wind getting in there at all, no breeze. Okay, so now you have the operating room. What do you do? You take 300 glasses filled of this potion. You pour it over his head, until his outer encasement, the skull, etc., softens to the point that you can access the brain. You tear open the skull. Now you can access this creature that's roaming around, but you don't want to grab it, lest it go on the defensive and sort of burrow into the brain with his nails. So you have to do it gently. You take 4 leaves, the asa of the myrtle, the hadas, 1 for each foot. Umadli kol chad kara. You pick up 1 foot at a time gently. Umoisif chad. And you slip a leaf beneath that foot to protect the brain from that foot. So you do this 1 at a time until you get all 4 legs on the hadasim, so it's sort of separated from his brain. V'shakal b'tzaf, so you grab with pliers, and you take it out, v'kalilei, and you burn it. The iloi, because if you don't burn it, hadar iloya, you can actually come back to the person. Machruz Rabbi Yehuda, hizaru, mizvuve shel bali rasan. Be careful, don't even go near the bugs, these flies, of the Bali Rasan, because they carry the disease that's contagious. Rabbi Zera was extra careful. He wouldn't sit in the same breeze as this fellow. Rabbi Lazar wouldn't go into his room, into his tent. Rabbi Amir, Rabbi Asi, they would take extra precaution. They wouldn't even consume an egg, dahimavoya, which was produced in that neighborhood, in that alleyway. But Rabbi Shua ben Levi, listen to what he did. Michrach behu. He would wrap himself with them. He would get close to them. V'asik b'Torah, when he was learning Torah. Amar, he said, Ayelas ahavim, v'yalas chen. Look how the pasuk describes the Torah. Yalas chen, it endows a person with grace. If the Torah endows its learners with grace, if it brings grace, you don't think it can protect us? So the Farshim say, the Yaivas, the Rishain, the Ritva, it all talk about the fact that he was being mesaken himself. How could he endanger his life to go learn Torah with a sick man? And they say he was secure in the fact. The Yavet says this, he was there to teach them Torah. Oh, you didn't need to learn Torah. You can't go without Torah. Or they were Talmid Chacham, so you need to learn from them Torah. Whatever it is, he was engaged in Limud Torah. He knew he would be protected. Reminds me of the story. Rav Moshe Feinstein, this was during a share, Friday morning, a pilpul share in the Mesivta Tiferes Yerushalayim, the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He was sitting in the share, and suddenly somebody runs in, screaming that a Jewish boy was severely hurt by a car outside. Rav Moshe responded, "No, it's not true. It can't be. What do you mean? He's not a Jewish boy." So somebody came in and told him, "Look, there was a yarmulke sitting on the floor right next to him. Of course he was a Jewish boy." Rav Moshe insisted, "It can't be. He wasn't Jewish. I'm telling you he wasn't Jewish." Sure enough, it turns out that this is what happened. It was a non-Jewish sheikh chasing a yeshiva boy. And, the boy was in flight, and as he was running, his yarmulke flew off. And he kept on running. Being chased by a guy, his yarmulke flew off, and he kept on running. And the Goyish boy, at that point, ran into the street in pursuit of the Jewish boy, and he was hit by a car, and he dropped right next to the yarmulke, which had flown off the Jewish boy's head. So, in fact, Rav Moshe was right. It wasn't the Jewish boy hit, it was a non-Jewish boy who was pursuing the Jewish boy. And somebody asked Rav Moshe, "But how did you know?" Then, in fact, that was the case. So Rav Moshe said, it cannot be. It cannot be that during this year, while we were learning Torah, the Torah protects its Megan. It cannot happen that a Jewish boy would be hurt right outside, right in front of the yeshiva, while this learning was going on. Torah is Megan. And he was right. Continues the Gemara. Ki havashachiv. When it came time for Rabbi Shimon Levi to pass away, Amr Leila Malach HaMavis. So the Bezdin Shamala instructed the Malach HaMavis, Zil, go ahead, Aved Leirusei, go do his bidding. Go ask him what he wants. Azal is Chazile. So Malach HaMavis goes and he introduces himself to Rabbi Shimon Levi. Amr Leila, so Rabbi Shimon Levi tells him, Ach vili duchtoi, before you take me away, give me a preview of my portion in Gan Eden. Says the Maharsha. Well, the Malach HaMavis is thinking that he'd like to take a sneak preview of the Gan Eden. This way, he'll be happy to leave the world, make his job easier, right? So he says, yeah, sure, no problem. L'chai is like l'chaim, sure, to life, no problem. So B'Shimon Levi tells me, hand me your knife, the one that you used to kill people. Give it to me. Dilma, I'm concerned, perhaps you'll scare me, you'll petrify me on the road while we're traveling. Give me your tools. He acquiesced. He handed over his tools. When he came to that area in Shamayim, Daldi, Malach HaMavis lifts Rabbi Shimon Levi. And he gave him a full view of his beautiful portion in Gan Eden. So what did he do? He jumped into it. Shavar, he jumped, Nafal, Laogisa, over to the other side. He's in Gan Eden now. Can't get me out. Nakte bekana de glima. Malach HaMavis was still holding onto the corner of his cloak. So Rabbi Shimon Levi says, I'm not coming out. Bishvuas, I'm swearing. I'm never coming back. So now the Malach HaMavis was stuck. Amar Kuchabrichos. Hashem says like this. Let's look back. Let's review the tapes. If any time throughout his life, Rabbi Shimon Levi was willing to undo an oath that he made, he went to a chacham to be mevatel the shvua. If he did that any time throughout his life, nihadar, he should do so now as well. Undo the shvua and go back home. But otherwise, if he never violated his words, never was mevatel a shvua, wasn't even matir a shvua, loy nahadar, we can't force him. Hashem says, I can't force him to renege on his oath. You have to leave him there, and he stayed there. Amar Le, but now the Malach says, 1 second. What happened to my knife? Havli sakinoi, give me back my knife. He refused to give it to him. Nafka bas kala, heavenly voice rung out. V'amar said, V'amar le havni alei. That you have to do. You have to give him back his tools. The mitba lebriyasa, because the world needs it. The creatures need it. Machriz Elio Kameh. Okay, so now he's in Gan Eden, and he merits this announcement by none other than Elio Hanavi. So he's calling out before him, Panu Makim, clear the way. Lebar Levoy, for Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Panu Makim, Lebar Levoy. Azal, so he's going along, and he's touring Gan Eden. Ashkechel, Rabbi Shimon Yechai, he finds a big tzaddik, Rabbi Shimon Yechai. And he sees him, Dava Yosef, he was sitting on top of this huge throne. Altlas Eser, 13, Taktaki, Pisa, chairs, thrones made out of pure gold. Amalei. So Rabbi Shimon turns to him, Atu Bar Levoy, are you the famous Bar Levoy? Amalei, he says, yes, correct. Next question. Niraso Keshas B'yamecha, tell me, throughout your lifetime, was there ever a rainbow visible in the world? Which is an indication that the world is about to be destroyed, and Hashem is just holding it up because of his promise to Adam, to Noach. Was a Keshes ever seen? Amalei, he says, yeah, hey, yes, correct. Imkain, if that's the case, Iyata Bar Levoy, you're not worthy of that announcement that Elio Navi made on your behalf. Because if you were really such a big tzaddik, you would have protected your world by your own merits. In which case, a Keshes would never have been seen. As actually, per the time of Rav Shlomo Levi's life, there was no Keshes seen. I'm sorry, Rav Shimon Yechai's time. There was no Keshes seen. Which is actually very consistent. The Gemara in Sukkah says that Rabbi Shimon Yechai was a tzaddik gomer. And that's the lashon that Rashi brings here as well. If there's a tzaddik gomer, the highest madrega of tzaddik in a doyer, in a generation, there's no room for the ois of the keshes because his schus protects the generation on its own. So Shlomo Levi said there was a keshes. What should I do? The Gemara says actually there was no keshes. There was never a rainbow seen during his tenure. The reason why he sort of sidetracked the question, he figured he didn't want to take the personal credit for it. But in reality, he was such a big tzaddik, just as the Shimon Yechai, there was no keshes seen throughout his lifetime. Here comes another story. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa, Sheshvinei Hava, he was sort of an acquaintance of the Malach HaMavis, whatever that means. When it was time for his passing, so the Malach HaMavis was instructed as follows: Zil Avadei Rusei, go, do for him as he wishes. Azal Gabei. So he approached Rabbi Chanina bar Papa. And he revealed himself to him. Amalei. Rabbi Chanina tells him, look, I know you came to take me, but give me some time. I got some work to do. Shav kitlasen yoim. Just come back. Let me go for 30 days. Which will give me an opportunity to review everything that I learned throughout my lifetime. In 30 days, I'll cover everything. Why is this so important right now? The Amri, because we know, Ashri mi shabalakan v'tamud biyadi. Chacham tell us, fortunate is the person Shabalakan who arrives here in Gan Eden v'tamud biyadi, holding his Torah in his hand. It's just a way of saying a person who achieved clarity. It's like holding in your fingers. It's tangible. It's right here. I need to review everything I learned, so that when the Chaver Kaddish come to take me, I'll have something to take along, something to take home. Shavki lebasat shavki. So he left him alone. Lebasat lasin yom. In fact, after 30 days, Azlas Chazlei, he came back. Amalei achvili duchtay. So Chanina had a personal request. He says, can I take a peek at my chelik in Gan Eden? Amalei Lechai says, sure, no problem. Amalei Havli Sakinuch. Well, in the meantime, I'd like to have your sack and your knife. Dilma mavasis liburcha, lest you frighten me, as we travel. Amalei, this time the Malach HaMavis was not to be had. He says, Kechavrich bois l'meveli. Oh, you're going to try to do the same thing as your friend? I'm not giving you the knife. Amalei, Chanina continues further. He says, you have to listen to me. I say Sefer Torah, bring a Sefer Torah, and take a close look. Mika midi, is there anything in that Sefer Torah? Mika midi, is there one thing, the Kesubos, which is written in that Sefer, Delay Kiyamti, which I did not keep? Malcham says, well, actually, you have a point, but I have a question. Mesiras nefesh for Torah, like your colleague, Rabbi Shimon Levi. Did you do that? Did you approach these ill people and learn with them Torah, like Rabbi Shimon Levi? You did not achieve the same level, the same madrega of Mesiras nefesh for Torah. Even so, says the Gemara, he was great enough. Kinoch nafshi. In fact, when he passed away, there was a beam of fire, of light, which came down and separated, created a partition, being the day between him, la'alma, and everybody around him. And nobody can get close to him. Ugmiri, and we know this by tradition, delay mafsaka, amud denur. This idea of the amud denur coming down only happens on occasion. Very rarely. To one person per generation, or twice a generation. So this was really a stamp of approval from Shamayim, as per his grades, Madriga. Karav l'gabei Rabbi Alexandri. So now nobody can get close to him. Nobody can get involved with his kvura and give him his last respects. So they were in a quandary. What should they do? He's surrounded by this fire. Nobody can get close to him. So Alexandri approaches him. Omar, he tells him like this: please, undo this fire, so that the Chachamim can, interact with you. It's covered for Chachamim, not to be so, separate and not to be sort of left out. Lo yashkach. So the departed, the Rechanina, did not pay any heed. The fire still remained. Do it for your father's sake, so that we can, get close to you and do the hesped and take care of you. Lo yashkach. No response. What about your own honor? This time it worked. Istalek, the fire disappeared, and they could approach him. Amar Abaye, what's the point of this amuda denur? La'afuke, it's meant to shut out. Man deloy kiyem afilu ois achas. It's meant to, push away somebody who's unworthy of interaction with this great tzaddik, a person who failed to keep something from the Torah. Amalei Rav Ada bar Masa. So Rav Ada tells Abaye, la'afuke mimar. Actually, it was meant to keep you out. Take a look at your igra, your roof. There's no protective railing. So he sort of, gave him a little musar. The Gemara responds, actually it's not so. Miyabahava. Initially it had a railing. Vayishat. It so happens to be at that time, who the shadizika, it was tossed off by the winds. Why is it that in Bavel we don't find these afflicted people who are suffering this ra'asan condition? Because they maintain a healthy lifestyle. Lots of vegetables and beer. They eat beets. They drink beer. Shalhizmi, produced with hops, which grow amongst the thorns. Why don't we find people with mitzayra and Bavel, with tzaras? Because they eat lots of beets. They drink beer, pras, and they bathe using the pras waters, which are very healthy. Okay, so to summarize, what did we learn today? We discussed the mumen on the husband's side. A fellow who has mumen, stay married, according to Tanakama in all cases. According to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, mumen gedolim, we force him to separate. In the next Mishnah, we have really severe situations where in that case all agree he must divorce. Where else? We have the psulos, Amon al-Kangol, etc. What about a fellow who unfortunately bore no children after 10 years? We have machlekes whether or not we have kafir lahaitzi, and actually bisman hazeh the minhag is not true. We discussed the mukashchin condition, the bali rasan, and the intricacies of the brain surgery which we went to perform to get him out of that situation. Incidentally, there's a famous story of the Chazon Ish, a fellow who's suffering some sort of neurological brain situation. He needed some surgery. He came to the Chazon Ish, and the Chazon Ish pulled out a sheet of paper with a pen, and he drew a diagram. He says, go back to the doctors. This is how they should operate. Go on from here, do this, do that. A full diagram. And he sent this with him to the doctors. Chazon Ish, who never went to medical school, but the clarity, the Torah, the Chachmas Hashem afforded him, gave him a window into the deepest secrets of creation and the medical scene. Unbelievable. In any case, we discussed the Mukashchin, the Bali Rosan, and we concluded with this most fascinating story, Reb Shimon Levi of the Malach HaMavis, and the schusim that he acquired due to his Mesiras Nefesh for Torah. Hadron Allah Hamadras Ishtay. All the best to you. May we be zeicha to learn and give it all we have. Mazeicha Titzat Shemaya in Torah and everything else. All the best. That's Lacha Rabbah.